How are you doing today? This is the Big Motivator. I'm calling everyone to the table, like I had said before, about how to address the challenges that we're facing in the world. One of the big challenges, reentry. That's right, reentry is a big challenge for many of us. How are we going to face it? I talk within the prison systems in the state and the county and the federal, and they all say the same thing. Kevin, how do we survive when we get released? I tell them, we have to be focused in the beginning on how we're going to prepare when we leave. It's like Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind. So we're thinking on the first day we enter prison, how do I prepare for exit? Let's say the first thing I would do is to identify which programs are available within the system. If you're in the state system, you want to contact the educational department by putting in a request slip and saying, how do I involve myself in the educational process here? In many prisons, they do an assessment in the beginning anyway. So you may be able to have that done. And then during that process, have a communication with the people there and have a plan, a master action plan as to how you want to move forward. Working with young people, they have something called an individual education plan. Well, you might want to think about an individual reentry plan. How can I prepare myself for this next level? If you're going home and you know that you're going home, then why wouldn't you do everything you could to prepare for that day? So please, take some time out to start writing a reentry plan. And you should do it now. If you're working with an individual or you have a family member incarcerated, please share this information with them. And if you're listening to this information and you're in a prison, then when we're done talking, please take the time to pull out some paper and a pencil and sit down and start writing out what the first step may be. Let me share with you what I would do first thing. I would go to where the library or the education department was, and I would find out what books were available or if there was an interlibrary loan program available. That way I could use the book list that I could ask for. You could request a book list from me, or you could ask one of your family members, or you could ask the educational department to request a Big Motivator book list. I will send one to you or to the institution. You can use that list to then order books through the interlibrary loan exchange program, or it would be something you could give to your family so that they could order books for you. It's better to have people send you books than there is for them to send you magazines like FHM or XXL or King. I mean, they're great when you have a social relationship and you need to identify some of the things that are going on in the world in entertainment. But when you're thinking of reentry, you're thinking of Think and Grow Rich, The Habit of 7 Highly Effective People, The Magic of Believing, Unlimited Power, Awaken the Giant Within. These things are the fodder of what develops true success and reentry potential. So let's focus on those things and ask our families to send us those types of materials. They will help us a great deal. And I tell people, if you're not sending those types of materials to your family and friends and people you know and you're reaching out or working with in prison, then when they get out, you're going to continue to give them the things that are not going to feed them because they'll expect them. Give people things now that you can expect they'll ask you when you get out, and it's consistent. Now, after I've gotten a book list and I begin to receive certain books, I would set aside at least an hour or 2 hours a day in my day. There are 1,440 minutes in every day. There are 168 hours in a week, so if you prepare to use your time effectively, you'll be able to leverage the sentence they gave you into a story of success and of utilized potential. So I've read now 1 or 2 books, and I'm moving in the direction of writing out notes that made sense, that stood out to me. And now I want to make the second suggestion that after reading, you start to write. You start to journal some of the things that will work for you, that may help you to develop your ability. So if you're reading something and you have next to you a book, a pad of paper, write down some of the things that stood out to you in the book so that you can refer to those things. So say you read something where it says that it's important to spend 3 hours a day exercising, and here are some of the things you should do, and they give you 1, 2, 3. You should write those down if 2 or 3 of them make sense to you, so that you can refer to them. Now, if you're reading, you're taking notes from what you're reading, and now you're looking at what's the next step as I develop my reentry plan. Now, by reading, you're going to increase your ability to understand more, and it's going to excite you about some things. When we associate, they say one of the criminogenic factors is when we associate with other people who are also involved in criminal thinking, we tend to have that kind of mindset. So by reading, you change the mindset, which reduces the criminogenic factors and ultimately will reduce recidivism, and it'll give people more hope because they're believing in something. So I'll encourage you to read one book called Think and Grow Rich as a way to get started. And I'll encourage you to read Awaken the Giant Within or Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins. Now let's say that Anthony Robbins was not successful his entire life. He was actually a man who had some problems, and that's why I've called Anthony Robbins Anthony Problems. He's taken his problems and he's used them to leverage himself beyond those problems by reading. He read in depth in many areas. He said that in fact he would keep 5 books with him daily. Another person that I found to really be helpful is Les Brown, which I've also called Mess Brown, because he had a challenge in his life when he took his radio show and he moved it further into doing television, and then it seemed to change some of the impact that he had hoped to have and that he had given a great deal of his life and his passion towards, and had now been not given the same sense of connection, and he felt strongly that that wasn't his voice anymore. So he took that mess and he made it into something powerful. So we all, have an opportunity through our challenges and our adversity to find a new way out of this. So I would say that's another important thing to do. Take icons or take value from people who have achieved success through their problems and use those problems and those successes to mirror some things and some changes in your own life. And that's how I did it. So I read these men, and I thoroughly understood that through their process they had developed their ability by looking at other people's lives who had similar challenges. So look at what I've been through, and you can probably find some successes. Another thing that you would do after you've developed your ability to read and understand and identify with people who have achieved success is to start doing some of those things that you're reading about. Action is important. It's important that you develop your ability to engage some of these new skills. And that might mean having conversation or communication with people who are involved in your recovery and your reentry and your process of overcoming your challenge. Now, there's some things that I want to say before I close this segment, and that is after you've developed your ability to reach out in the institution, or whether or not you're in a halfway house or any other secure facility, or if you're in a treatment program, addiction center, and I'm encouraging you to read or to utilize books in order to develop your ability to find a new way, and to use that information by writing it down. It makes it concrete, you remember it, and then to be able to identify some successes like they do in other programs of recovery. They ask you to look at the lives and identify with some of their challenges so that you can find strength. After you've done that, I want you then to take action. I want you to go out and start living your life and start becoming the life that you envision, the lives that you've read about, the lives that you believed would make a difference for you. And remember to associate with 5 other people who are on similar paths. That's the way many programs involve themselves in becoming successful, is they associate many other people with them who are also incredibly successful. I've been incredibly successful as well. I have an incredible team around me. I have people who care a great deal about me, and that success and that love and that power is important. So, always give thanks to those who reach out and help you. So I want to close by saying I really give a lot of love and appreciation for Jeannie Mackin and for Dave Sachs and for Danielle and for Michael and for my entire family who have been very supportive. But in particular, in my last, say, 6 years of efforts towards this professional speaking journey I'm on, they've been a very important, intricate part of that. And that success is important to me. And so is it making sure they understand that it was important. So please, remember to model the behavior you want and always identify and thank those that have helped you in your path. It's a Big Motivator sharing my first step in preparing for a reentry plan.